If you want to learn the front lever and you've spent some time researching the topic, you definitely know about progressions, as well as the fact that every front lever short out there seems to be a cringe variation of the same workout taken out of context. Well, in this video, I'll talk about which exercises and progressions are actually worth doing and which one you should do depending on your current level. First, I'll briefly mention how we should train in the first place, and then I'll go through every major exercise out there and give you guys a short guide on them. By the end of this video, you will hopefully know what to focus on next. Let's get into it. Right out of the gate, I'd like to point out that obsessing with things like tuck lever or one leg isn't worth it in the long run. In fact, these progressions might not even bring you close to the full front lever due to the fact that they are so different from the full version. You will never feel what it's like to hold a full front lever by doing a tuck or any other closed hip progression. After all, this is what we're trying to learn here. I don't think your goal is to learn a tuck lever one day. That doesn't mean you cannot do them. My point is that only doing progressions is a terrible idea, and it's not what's gonna get you the front lever. I have to point out that it does work for like 1% of the population who also happen to be top athletes. But since you're watching this video, I'm just gonna assume you're not one of them. Those people are genetic beasts, and the thing is that any kind of workout will work for them, even the worst one. There are people doing crazy feats out there and they have no understanding of strength principles or how to build a proper workout. That is a fact that many people don't realize. Which means that we, normal people, cannot train like them. Instead, we'll use a method I learned from gymnasts, which they've successfully used for decades. It's more effective and reliable for an average person, and I'm telling you, no professional coach will ever teach someone to learn the front lever by just going through these steps. It just doesn't make sense simply from a biomechanical standpoint. Now, what you're about to see is kind of a trend amongst the general population. Here's the average time hold on each progression. Tuck lever 15 seconds, advanced tuck 10 seconds, one leg front lever 7 seconds, straddle 3 seconds, and the full front lever 0. It doesn't really matter what the numbers are, it might as well be 10, 6, 3, 1, 0 or 20, 15, 10, 5 and 0. The point is that there is always 0 or 0.5 for the full front lever. From this we can see that the gap between the progression and the final version is too big. It's like teaching someone how to swim by first splashing them with a glass of water, then throwing them into the puddle, then into a bathtub, and finally throwing them into the ocean. The transition is just as smooth. As I said, there are exceptions, but this is how it usually goes. Don't get me wrong, progressions are good if used correctly alongside dozen other exercises. I'd recommend learning an open hip variation, meaning no tucks or one leg stuff, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go through the exercises now. First, let's cover isometrics, which means holding the tension without moving, starting with the tuck lever and other similar variations. If you have never tried the front lever before, basically any sort of the front lever progression will bring you some results, if you can hold it for some time. I imagine everyone would want to start with this one, the easiest of all. However, we need to include some strength training and some other exercises as well. Otherwise, the tuck lever by itself is just as useful as a college degree. If you're a beginner, tuck lever can be instrumental in understanding and getting used to a horizontal hold. I'd say do it for the first month of learning. After that, you should definitely switch to other exercises. Next up is a more advanced variation, or advanced stuck as I like to call it, because this is where most people stop. I would also put other progressions with closed hips right here, because they are not so different and will bring you similar results. Like I said, do them at the start, but once you decide that the front lever is your goal and you want to focus on it, you need to introduce new exercises. There is a progression, however, that might be very beneficial, which is a straddle front lever. It's by far the closest one to the real thing and is an open hip one. If you're going to do progressions, then do this one. The other one is the front lever with bent knees. I honestly never trained it and was able to get the front lever without it, so I don't really have an opinion on that, but you can try it and see for yourself. Based on what I saw from other creators, it's actually worth doing. One of the best isometric exercises, in my opinion, is the front lever with resistance bands. Choose a band that will actually make the hold challenging and try to feel that position. The idea is to use your whole body as a single unit, as gymnasts refer to it. Every muscle activation matters. It's not just about your scapula. Things like pointing your toes or pushing your hips up might help you a lot. It's important to try and feel those muscles. Don't just jump into a band and hold for as long as you can. That's not the point. Instead, understand what helps you to hold the front lever, besides the resistance band, of course. As you're getting stronger from doing pull-ups, other exercises, as well as this, switch to a lighter band. Also stick with placing the band on the lower back and not on your legs. The reason is because it's shifting the angle between your arms and slightly messes up your form. I believe you will be better with this one. It's also close to something that gymnasts use, although slightly different. Now let's cover exercises with a range of motion. Straight up front lever raises and descents are easily one of the most effective ones out there, due to the fact that they have a full range of motion, a front lever phase, and they're also an open hip variation. You can regress the exercise with resistance bands, and that's what I'd recommend, as opposed to a tuck raise. But if you're just starting, it's completely fine to try either a tuck version or an inverted deadlift. Now, the best range of motion exercise that gymnasts actually recommend is a front lever pull to inverted hang and back. The reason why it's so good is because you maintain the front lever position throughout the whole time. Every muscle needed for the front lever can be activated here. As I mentioned earlier, you are using your body as a single unit. Something more advanced now, we have front lever pull-ups. Depending on your current level, you can choose different versions. The easiest one is tuck lever pull-ups with resistance band. And as you get better, you can try open hip variations. Beginners can still do this, but I wouldn't say it's the most important one, as it's better suited for some of you guys who are more advanced. Now, I've been saving this one for the end. I genuinely believe that around half of the people who are struggling to learn the front lever would have their problem solved if they focused on this. I'm talking, of course, about pull-ups, and specifically weighted ones. Since the front lever is mostly a strength skill, it makes sense that you need strength to do it, specifically in your lats, and pull-ups are one of the best ways to build it. Another back exercise is rows. If you are lacking strength, I would definitely recommend including this as well, at least until you are strong enough. Going even further, we have straight arm pull downs. It's quite hard to perform this perfectly because you will be tempted to bend your arms, but it's still a great exercise and even beginners could do it, starting with a smaller weight and progressively overloading it over time. Some people would say it's not good for beginners because of how difficult it is, but I wouldn't use this as an excuse to not do it. It's not rocket science, just keep your arms completely straight all the time and use appropriate weight or resistance band. Finally, we have some accessory work. While your upper back is the most important thing in a front lever, don't underestimate your abs and lower back. They can still have a big influence over your form. After all, we strive for a perfect one. I'm not saying I have mastered it, in fact, it's kind of inconsistent for me, and I noticed that my lower back could use some work. So at the end of your workout, you might want to include leg raises or hyperextensions. As you can see, there are a ton of exercises to choose from. So saying that tuck lever is the king, or that it's all that you need, is very misleading, and pretty much everyone who tries to force that without providing any context can eat a dick. Generally, this is how I would structure an average training plan. For the first month, do some basic progressions, starting with the tuck lever, all the way to advanced tuck and straddle, while focusing on the technique as well as strength exercises like straight arm pull downs and weighted pull-ups. For these two, keep progressively overloading them till you are strong enough. For the practice, introduce new exercises like resistance bands hold, front lever raises, descents, and front lever pull to inverted hang. Regress the exercises with the help of resistance bands or straddle. Wouldn't recommend doing tuck raises at this point because, as we discussed earlier, we want to stick to an open hip variation. There are of course other exercises worth doing, but I just wanted to point out a couple of new things I learned recently. In short, front lever isometrics, full range of motion exercises, and general strength training, like weighted pull ups and rows. If you try these three things for 2 months, you will be surprised how effective it is. And that's it for today, guys. If you want to master the front lever in less than a year, DM me on Instagram. I offer a training plan that will guarantee you results no matter your genetics. The link is below, and I'll see you in the next one.